Bitcoin Liberty Live, episode 49. We're back.
41 or 49.
49.
Yeah, muy bien. In 3 weeks, it'll be a year of Bitcoin Liberty Live into the void of the internet.
Yeah, we started almost a year ago.
Black hole of information.
Crab walking all the way, catching the pops up,
Yeah.
crab walking sideways and down as we go. But
Yeah.
the great realignment continues.
I hope
Um,
so.
what I see happening, I think there's macro effects going on. Lots of, markets don't like uncertainty. And I think a lot of the more recent retail market still looks at Bitcoin as an on-risk asset, a speculative asset. They don't understand it. They're
Yeah.
just looking at numbers and
Hey, what's up, Johnny?
hey guys. uh, yes, good morning. So there's that. I think I think there's been a shift as far as the great realignment goes, a shift generally from, you think about all the whales that accumulated back in the last decade, and there are random people sitting on a bunch of random Bitcoin that don't exactly have the most diamond hands and and can sell. And
Yeah.
but the ETFs, they'd been actually losing a bit of balance for a little while, but like 5 weeks they actually were there were some outflows, but
Oh,
that's reversed. There's inflows again. I mean, and it's not they're not small. I mean, you're talking like regularly hundreds of millions of dollars flowing in. So that pressure is still there. And as far as sales go, and macro uncertainty.
yeah.
So,
Maybe. I don't know, man. Like, I've been waiting to buy. It's good to see you too, Johnny. Um, Yeah, and like I know I keep kind of bringing up my little trading strategy guru nonsense on this on our little channel here, but like I was watching the price real close, and it's kind of doing the little thing and coming back up. I'm going, man, I'm just gonna keep sitting on my hands. I'm just gonna keep sitting on my hands, and once again, that little trading strategy has preserved my kind of purchasing power, at least in terms of fiat stackability. So far, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the future, but that indicator, like the little line cross I was telling you about last week, it crossed upwards on the daily chart, which is my trading. That's the chart I use to time my buys. It crossed up, but that second indicator, the little RSI, never did. It just got right to that 50 line. It was just hovering there, and I was like, one more candle close and I got to buy. Like one more candle close, and my trading algo has flip to buy. So it's like, all right, but I gotta wait. I just gotta sit on my hands, and sure as shit, next day, boop, right down. It hit that center line, that 50 RSI, and then went straight down, and now it's down 82. So
yeah,
you know,
just
so
when you thought it
it's
dropped,
nice.
yeah, yeah, it had dropped. And and what I would do impatiently would, you know, burn up my dry powder when I had it. And so I'd see it drop and I'd buy. And then it would go up or flatten or it would go down some more and I'd buy.
Yeah,
Thinking, oh, okay, it's bottomed out, or oh, it's flattened out, or oh, it's going up now. We have a floor established now, maybe. No.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've been sitting here like. It's actually kind of fun for me because like I don't have the same sort of like weird obsessive stress that I had when I was shitcoin trading, because that was just like that was, I think, bordering closer to mental illness than anything else, because I mean it was just like I couldn't go 10 minutes without checking a chart. Like I really couldn't. It was just like, oh, what's this doing now, I mean it was just like obsessive to the point of being unhealthy, right?
Yeah, day trading, checking. Yeah.
Yeah, but now having gone through that experience and sort of having like a good feel for it, um, yeah, seriously. I know I can't believe people are selling either. I mean, I don't sell anymore, but the beauty of it is like having this thing set up so it's like, well, I can time my buys based on this strategy at least. Like I don't have to just sit there and blindly DCA down a hill. I can just kind of wait until
Hmm.
bottoms, wait until my little trading thing goes and go like, oh, buy here. And so maybe it'll work in my favor, maybe not. I don't know. I just like buying and watch number go up, not buy and watch number go down. Like that makes my little brain and my little emotional feels go, I should have waited. And anytime I can avoid that sort of negative association with the purchase of Bitcoin, I go, that's good for me, because I need to, despite my deep conviction in the Bitcoin experiment, I still, like to foster as much positive energy and emotion around that as I can. So I
Mhm.
think the trading strategy has been beneficial, because I certainly felt great when I was like, I'm just gonna wait, and then price went down. I was like, yes, I good job, Daniel, way to go, buddy.
I'm only 2x up from a year ago. Uh,
Yeah,
Matthew Cratter had a good video up. Was it yesterday about why is Bitcoin going down, whatever that was called, and he had some interesting reasons. But he to your point of the checking the price. He was like, when you own a house, you're not checking the value of your house all the time.
constantly,
Like,
right?
oh, what's my house worth now? Did my house go up? Oh, my house is up a little bit. It's
Yeah.
just like, just keep your house, live in your house, hold it.
Yeah, well, that's fine if but it disregards, like, if you could buy fractionally more house,
Yeah,
you know, like you go,
all the
hey,
time.
I could get a living room edition this week for
Now, boop,
20,000,
boop.
or if I wait 2 more weeks, I could get a living room edition for 20,000. Should I pay attention to the price now? You go 100%. Like, you should be watching that price to see the best possible time you can get an extra bathroom, a game room, something like that. But obviously, you can't fractionally increase the size of your house.
Right.
So,
Um,
I mean,
yeah,
I get what he's saying, like, in the broad sense of, like, yeah, well, you definitely want to be like, you wouldn't sit there and closely monitor the cost of your rental property or something. You go, oh my god, rental properties went down 0.2% this week. You just wouldn't do it, right? Like, you wait for big macro swings in the price. And I agree with Bitcoin as well. But
yeah.
that said, I can also buy fractional shares of my house. Like, if I could add one unit to my apartment complex every week based on
Mhm.
how well, or I can only add half a unit and I have to wait another, yeah. So
Stay humble, stack. Yeah, you're right, Johnny. Matthew Cratter helps kind of. He's a tactfully toxic maxi, but even not even that toxic. He just really helps explain and re-explain and call out the shit, and he helps keep me grounded. Like when I start meandering into areas, and then or something's going on, and there he is with a video, and it just kind of reminds me of like oftentimes like his videos. Like lately, he'll have a video out, and it's like I already know all this stuff, and I've heard it before, and it's like a reminder. Like remember,
yeah,
you know, this is how it works, and for reasons. Or he'll have the toxic Bitcoin Saturdays, and he he trounces on the trolls or the commenters, or he helps re-explain. Somebody's got an odd frame on something, and he'll frame it correctly. It's a good reminder to me. Okay, just stay grounded. I remember why I'm in, why it works, how it works. Zoom out, and what am I upset that God, it was in the 40s a year ago, and now it's only in the 80s, and it could have been, it. If anything, I saw some of X posts were reminding me that, in one sense, your FOMO on, oh, it's gonna candle up crazy, and you'll never get another whole coin or whatever ever again. The runway maybe is just sort of extended for your opportunity to, at your level, acquire what you can more,
yeah,
better.
yeah,
Um, you have now still an extended opportunity to be stacking at a better rate.
yeah,
So
exactly.
continue to stack.
Yeah, I agree, man. Matt Crowder is outstanding. I really, really enjoy his content, just because he's such a great educator, though. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a really simple, that little blank slate thing that he uses for the presentation. He just, I don't, it feels like he just throws these things together, but you can tell they're very thoughtful.
No
And
drama.
yeah, but no drama, just very straightforward, just matter of fact, and but great analogies, and just the way he can convey a point. Like, you can tell he has got some core talent for education and delivering educational content.
Yeah, very
I always
balanced.
appreciate his point of view. And you're right, man. Like it absolutely, to Johnny's point, it definitely helps cut through that fog. And to your point, Fritz, it helps remind you, like, oh yeah, this isn't just about number go up and just being a baboon. It's about just like stay humble, stack sats, and just kind of do your thing. So
Yeah,
oh, I,
my
I like the guy.
yeah my the headline will froth, and I enjoy keeping up on what's happening out there, who's angling which way, and speculations, all kinds of stuff, and it'll just sort of feed a little excitement and speculation on my part. I enjoy it, and then I have to, after I've sort of dipped into that a bit and gotten kind of my thoughts going, I have to back up, slow down, and kind of recenter on how does this really integrate, or at all does it.
Right.
One of Cratter's last points on why is Bitcoin doing what it does? It's like Bitcoin don't care. Bitcoin
Right.
just runs. That's a piece of this. Bitcoin is unaffected by the hijinks of other markets or CEOs or governments. Bitcoin just, I mean, if anything, people are looking at the price and it's like, okay, how about the hash rate? TikTok next block, uh, following the rules.
Yeah.
It's growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, what's funny is like every time I see someone go like, "Oh, price went down because of X," like it's endemic in the finance world. Like they something will happen and they go search for a reason why. But they present it as if that correlation is a fact. They go, "Oh, Russian invasion is why the price went down." You go, maybe. I mean, it's because what happens is the little swarm of bees goes out and they find a little thing, like they all find their little flower, and then whichever bee is loudest that makes the most sense to the other bees, all the other bees cluster around that flower, and then they go, "This is the reason why, right here." But it doesn't necessarily make it so. And the simplest explanation, every time I see those, I go, "Well, the price is going down because more people are selling than buying." And when the price goes up, that means more people are buying than selling. It's like pretty straightforward. You don't have to like speculate on anything. You don't have to like wonder about geopolitical, macroeconomic, yada, yada, yada. You go, more people are buying than selling, or vice versa. That's where price is going. And that's the only thing you need to know. If you have half a brain in your head and you understand Bitcoin on any level whatsoever, you go, probably smarter to not be selling. So
right.
you can just disregard the noise. You can disregard that price and just go like, get back to the idea that you had earlier, which is like, I don't watch the price of my house go up and down every single day. So just, I'm not going to do the same with my Bitcoin. And
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
in a lot of retail market psychology around Bitcoin, it's like, how much was I hearing and answering questions and sharing an excitement about Bitcoin from all kinds of people all over when the price had broken 100,
right.
and there was this all this interest, like, I want to buy high, and I'm like, okay, yeah, there's ways to do that,
Yeah.
and then uh yeah, a month goes by, 2 months go by, and it's like, so when million, and I just
An
you can't
Omega.
always yeah, you can't always see who's buying or selling, and then when it moves, it's like, okay, what is going on here? Okay, micro strategy bot, or okay, ETF outflows. Okay, there's things we don't see. Ultimately, it's what I consider, to your book's point. It's part of this great realignment. I think addresses are shifting into harder and harder hands,
Yeah.
steadily, slowly. It's a big enough market, even as it is very much untapped in terms of the tool of the future in a financial system.
Yeah.
But the inroads are there, and
Yeah. 100%. Well,
um,
you mentioned something that you go, well, we can't know who's buying, and you're absolutely right. Like that volatility brings a lot of opportunities, and that's what I keep waiting for on my little trading thing to trigger, so I can catch that volatility at an opportune time. But there are wallet trackers, right, where you can. And it wasn't until it was during my trading days that I looked at those wallet trackers and I watched like the big whale wallet trackers and stuff like that. But there were guys on there that would be like, for like a year straight they would buy like 1,000 Bitcoin a week or something. You're just like, or 100 Bitcoin a week or 500 Bitcoin a week, and you're just like, Christ. And then they would like buy high and sell low, and they're like trading in and out of this stuff. And it occurred to me like, to the idea of like, to what you just said, it's going from weak hands to strong hands, right? The thing is, I think most of the strong hands are guys like me and you, and people that are generally around Bitcoin with this level of understanding. They're not necessarily billionaires, right? Like Michael Saylor is a standout billionaire that goes like, it's moving into my diamond hands. But I think most diamond-handed hodlers are people that are like, I've got like zero point 0.6 Bitcoin, so I'm diamond hodling. But there's some prince in the United Arab Emirates or in Riyadh somewhere is just like, I'm gonna like he would trade Ferraris and Lamborghinis. He just goes, I want a new Lamborghini this week. Get rid of this one. It's the color's not right. And he hears about Bitcoin and goes, "Oh, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin. Oh, I'm going to try and sell some Bitcoin." But he's moving quantities where I'm just like, I'm a gawk, right? Like I can't even fathom just even seeing that amount of money, let alone just flinging it around like it was like I would treat, buying a order of small fries at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Well, and when you have players like that, and there's no shortage of them. I mean, there's a ton of people out there that can afford to just move Bitcoin around and just do shit with it, not really think about anything about long term hodling or this or that or the other thing, financial sovereignty and yada yada yada, because they are sovereigns unto themselves. They possess enough financial power that they're not worried about paying the
They're
rent. Or,
fine and they're
yeah,
dabbling or
yeah,
playing.
and they're just flinging this shit around. So, yeah, like though there's legions of those guys that are like, oh, price dumped. I'm gonna lock in some profits. Boom, and they're just gonna like, they're gonna literally hop on Kraken and sell 5,000 Bitcoin, and you're just like, Christ,
Yeah. Well, and
like,
the amount of, like you said, I mean, the amount of wealth out there that are in, in a handful of individuals' abilities, it's so huge and unfathomable. It's outside of the scope of what I'm used to in normal life. That a lot of the big wealth out there really is squarely has its feet in fiat, a
yeah.
fiat brain. Even as they're learning Bitcoin, maybe
Well, they're
they're
not
treat
bothering to learn. Why would you learn that if you're worth $500 million? Like, why would you give a flying hoot about personal sovereignty and financial freedom and you
yeah,
know freeing the money and freeing the world when you're just like, I'm pretty fucking free, man. I'm just gonna go hop on my Learjet. I'm just gonna fly out
yeah,
to Paris for breakfast this morning. Then I'm gonna fly back to Riyadh with my super hot supermodel girlfriend, so I can have locally sourced dates from my date farm. Like you're not worried about any of the. There's no point to go down that rabbit hole. Like, why would you devote 1 second of your brain power to figuring out and understanding Bitcoin on a deep level? It doesn't matter to you.
yeah. They
So
treat it like a stock or a game or a speculation or who knows. I don't
yeah,
think they don't get it. And
and don't
because
care.
Bitcoin is young, it can affect the price. And it is what it is. Interestingly, thinking of Sailor's diamond hands, I mean, there was a more recent interview where he had said that he would, whether he would burn it or distribute it, that basically um, his Bitcoin would never, he would never sell. He would like, he would burn
He
it
would
is what
donate
people
it to the
heard.
network. Yeah.
He would donate it to the network, whatever that means. Um, my my only that which is he'd kind of he'd inferred that kind of idea before, like what Satoshi did. You harden the network up, and you're a diamond hand, and then you could walk away. Like he's fine. He doesn't have any descendants biologically. Sure, and it's a great contribution to the supply or to Bitcoin.
Or lack thereof. Yeah.
My only not criticism but thought about that is he's never really shown his proof of reserves, like how not that he has to disclose how he custodies, but it's like who's custodying their Bitcoin. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna burn it all. Well, is he relying on what, Coinbase to do that for him, or like
Well, if he had half a brain in his head, he'd use a microseed.
yeah, does he have a MicroSeed? Does he have a Does he have a treasure?
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know. That's one question I have. Is it ultimately he's like, I'm going to burn it all, and the exchange is like, mm, we can give you some cash over time because they don't. They're
Yeah.
not going to want to get rid of it. I don't know. I'd love to know that he could literally do that and not rely on some third party, but
Well,
um,
I'd have to imagine he possesses sufficient sophistication that he's got that sorted out. Like,
I hope
he's
so.
not lacking the resources to figure that out. And considering that you or I could figure out how to make it so no one could ever get to my stack or your stack ever, pretty sure Sailor can figure that out. Or maybe he's gonna. I mean, I'm sure he's gonna gift some to somebody. And like you said, we don't really. I mean, he says he's got X, but that doesn't mean we know for a fact. Someone might have his wallet address somewhere. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, whether or not he burns it or not, I don't know. I mean, people change. Like he's
Yeah.
a relatively young guy, so he could end
The
up changing his mind and decide he wants to to start a new version of USAID or something like that.
I think his ethics are there. USAID shut down. I think. I hope.
Yeah,
I heard.
with a dick on the door,
Did
dude.
you
I
see
don't know.
that door? That was
Yeah,
hilarious. When
that can't be real, dude. That has to be some
I
sort
was
of
like, this has to be a known joke. How could it be an accident that the first image I saw, and it was literally just from the news, and it was a picture of their front door,
yeah.
and I was staring at it, and I was like, "There's
That's a
something funny
dick.
about this.
Yeah, that's a
Like that
dick on
looks
the door.
weird."
Yeah,
It became a meme of its own.
it was one
USAD
mistake
went
to be a
limp.
dick, dude. Like,
Seriously, limp.
yeah.
Um, anyway, a big cock on the door. That was funny.
Is it real? That was that actually broadcast on the news? They didn't really use that.
I can't remember where I first saw it, but as soon as I saw it, but it wasn't from like a side account with an angle or a joking thing. It was it. I can't remember. I
I don't
can't
know.
remember where I
I
saw it,
saw
but it,
the image. I first saw the image on X, so I just
yeah,
assumed right away that, like, USAID closes. Like right away, anything I see on X, I just go, "This is probably not real," right? Like, there's just chances the veracity of the content on X is ridiculously low.
needs
Um,
verification.
yeah, like you have to spend a lot of time like validating information if you want to trust anything on X. Well, anywhere really. Like CNN's worse because it's state funded, it's state mandated. But but if when I saw that picture, I was just like, I don't even know if they've actually closed USAID or not.
They
Uh,
wrapped a chain around the handles. Is that how you do it?
yeah, and then
Maybe.
B, they got a dick on the door. So this this is reducing my confidence in the veracity of this story right now. Like,
I mean, I could see Elon or the Doge team or Big Balls or something having thought this through enough to make a joke of it, as they do, which I would love.
yeah.
But yeah, it's like USAID's dick can no longer fuck you. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I didn't read the appellate court case. I mean, one of the things that's really been bothering me lately is like Trump put out a tweet and said, this judge is an activist, liberal, wackadoodle, yada, 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 because he was the one that ordered like the Venezuelan planes returned or whatever. And
hmm
so I went and looked at the judge's history. Like, he was appointed by Bush, so clearly not some liberal wackadoodle pick. And his judicial record is about as sound as I can put together, right?
hmm.
Like he's had some controversial rulings in the past, and a lot of them were right leaning things. Like he goes, no, actually, you guys can do this in this rate. I can't remember the exact topics that he voted pro. You know, what would be considered conservative side stuff. And but the problem is like if you look at a judge's record, that guy is not applying like I feel like the Democrats should win this one, because they would lose their job in 10 seconds. Like everything that a judge does can be scrutinized by every single attorney in the United States, every other judge in the United States, and it's going to be subject to appeal. So another panel of judges is going to evaluate your work.
Hmm.
So when they start going, oh, this is a liberal activist judge, I go, well, maybe, the likelihood I think is very, very, very low in most cases. If you're talking about some local ding dong judge, all the time, happens constantly, right? But if you're talking about a federal court judge that you are alleging is making decisions based on a political bias, they've had to do so much. If that's true, if you could just open up their brain, look in and see it and go, yeah, that this guy is clearly biased towards one side or the other, they still have to make a case that can withstand scrutiny in their ruling. They can't just go like, I'm just making shit up off the top of my head, and that's why I think you should turn this plane around. Like, there's got to be a reason for it. So it kind of drives me bonkers seeing that stuff, but it ties into what I was saying about Twitter or X or whatever. The second I see anything, this is probably bullshit. It's just all
I
bullshit, bullshit. It's constant, dude.
it's hard to know. Uh, Again, yeah, you can't just up and replace judges like that for reasons. And yes, rulings can go through further scrutiny and over time be overruled or affected. I also think I think there's a good number of people that whether they started and were part of a one side or the other on politics or just blessed by the deep state. In recent years, I think a handful of people, maybe a lot of people, have sort of flipped a switch in the chip got replaced in their brain, and they are just simply deranged. They're Trump deranged, and things went from I can apply all this rational thought process to decisions, but there's this little switch and flag in there that is like, if you can stop Hitler, you got to stop Hitler.
Well, I agree with that for people that are not federal court judges, right? Like, I agree with that assessment for like all manners and all walks of life throughout the economy and employers and employees and just people in general. I can absolutely ascribe some Trump derangement syndrome in a widespread thing. When it comes to a judge making a decision, that's a completely different animal because you can't just apply Trump derangement syndrome to a ruling, a judicial ruling. It won't
Well, there's
work.
still people, and they could couch a deeper emotional thing with all this frame of rationalization. Like,
Well, but there is no rationalization. Either there's a statute or a case that supports your idea, or there's not, right? So you can't just make up a rule and go, I think it should go this way. If you have a rule, there's an old thing from law school. It goes, you got issue, rule, analysis, conclusion, right? Issue and rule are about 2 sentences long. Analysis is like 2 pages, and then conclusion is like 2 sentences, right? So you have to justify every single factual statement that you make in a court ruling. You can't just say, I think Trump violated the law here. You go, well, according to this court ruling in this case, they did this. Similar situation. That's why they can't do that here. In this case, they did this. That's why you can't do that here. The law says you can't do this. Applied to this, you can't do this. That's why here's all the citations. It's all backed by evidence. It's not just like some random thing like some CNN anchor that just gets along and goes, this is unconstitutional. Oh, this is a power grab. Like, that's all just nonsense. It's just noise. People just blah, 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 blah. But when a judge is making a decision, they have to document all this shit. And like I said, it's not documentation where they just have to write it down once. Every law student in America can go read that case. Every lawyer in America can go read that case. It was like, to take it out of the text of Trump, like, go look at the XRP bozos, right? These guys will go, oh, landmark case, SEC gets blah, 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 blah. If you go read the case, you read the ruling and this and that and the other thing. And the XRP case is a great example because there was one judge who went completely against the grain of like 80 years of statutory interpretation in the courts and completely flipped the entire idea of securities law on its head. His ruling literally said, I will protect institutional investors from fraud, but not retail investors. And universally, that was panned by law professors, by other attorneys, even by another court in the same district said, this is insane. I am not following this judge's reasoning because it doesn't work. But the point is it didn't just occur in a vacuum. This guy didn't just like make a ruling. Like, it was subject to widespread scrutiny and criticism. And that ruling, I don't think is going to stand, aside from the fact now that the SEC is gutted and they're kind of giving up on this whole thing. So I think XRP may actually end up, escaping its fraudulent past. But the point is even if someone has some ideological bent, like even if the XRP people went and bribed this judge and got him to make this ruling, it can't occur in darkness. It can't occur like the same way that a decision in an editorial room at the New York Times can, or at the Atlantic, or at CNN or NPR, or any of this kind of stuff, because it's subject to so much scrutiny. So when someone applies that same thing to like this judge who said, turn that plane around, you can't do that, he didn't make that ruling because he's like, I don't like Trump. I think this is wrong. I want illegal immigrants to run free and cut people's heads off in America. That's not where that's coming from. He went, looked, he evaluated the factual circumstances, and then he applied previous rulings. That's stare decisis. What was decided before, we continue to decide in the future. That's the foundation of stable law. And then he goes, oh, well, a similar thing happened in 1963, 1975, 1982, 2000, 2005. For all these reasons, and here's all the documentation, here's all the receipts, you can't do it here. But that's sort of the
I
boring
look
deal.
at application of law like that sometimes as like applying statistics, where there's a whole landscape and a lot of courts and precedents and things decisions made, and you can pick areas that fit for you and have a legal precedent, and you can go different directions. If you wanted to go a certain direction, ultimately you could carefully and lawfully and very intelligently find that precedent. um,
Well,
and so you can make a decision you kind of want and have legal precedent, even if it was one way or another. So like the I was telling you offline earlier about the stuff going on at work with legal
yeah.
arbitration type things. Um, you would you would say, how in the hell did a certain outcome occur like this?
Hmm.
Um, Based on a well written set of arguments that you would say, right or wrong, it went one very strong way when it could have gone very strongly the other way. Both reports would have been well backed up, and well, you get what you get, folks. How does it make sense? Oh, legal precedent. It's all well written. I don't know.
Well, I mean, an arbitration is very, very different than a court proceeding. I mean,
That's true.
completely different rules of
Yeah,
evidence, completely
yeah,
different rules of authority. Completely, they can rely on all kinds of stuff, and there's a lot of personal judgment that goes into an arbitration. 100%. There is no personal
yeah,
judgment allowed in the federal court, dude. It just doesn't happen.
yeah.
So, what happens in every single court case that's ever been decided in the history of the world? There's one side wins, one side loses, and the losing side always hates it. 100% of the time. There's never been a loser that went, that was probably fair. That was a fair outcome. I was wrong to bring this lawsuit. I was wrong here when I ran that person over with a car. I was wrong when I violated the law to try and get something through. It happened to the Obama administration. It happened to the Biden administration. It's going to happen to the Trump administration. It's going to happen to it has happened to every single administration in the history of the country. There are decisions that federal courts make, and those get appealed and those go to the DC appeals court. The beauty of this right now is all the people are getting bent out of shape about the so-called activist judge, which I disagree with 100%. You can disagree with me. I don't care. I have a lot of people that are just coming at this from some other, random shit that they read on Twitter. And go, well, but you can keep your opinion. I don't care. My point is it's going to get to a Supreme Court that is very heavily stacked in favor of the current administration. So the likelihood of them overruling this stuff, I think, is close to zero. And like right now, if you look at the liberals that are losing their shit about the constitutionality of Doge and all this and that and the other thing, if you actually take the time to look at it and you go, is there precedent for what the liberals are complaining about? Yes, 100%. Is there precedent for what President Trump and the Doge administration, or the Trump administration and the Doge apparatus are doing right now? Yes, 100%. There's solid legal foundation for what they're doing, and there's solid legal foundation to say what they're doing violates the Constitution. So there's two sides of this. The thing
Right.
is, when it comes
Yeah.
time to interpret that, the current makeup of the Supreme Court right now, I look at and I go, there is a high likelihood that they're either going to tailor what Doge can do, which I think is relatively low, or B, and the more likely outcome that I foresee is that they're going to say, this is absolutely allowed because Reagan did this under this thing, and Carter did this under this thing, and Truman did this under this thing, and that's why this is all okay constitutionally. And once that gets ruled in that way, then the liberals are still going to sit there and bitch and complain about King Musk and the end of democracy and yada yada yada, despite the fact that there's going to be someone that has a very reasonable body of jurists that is our Supreme Court right now is going to look at it and disagree with them fundamentally. But the same thing happened with like Keller and the gun control shit. Like there are still liberals to this day that go, guns are for a militia. The Second Amendment's about a militia. The Supreme Court ruled, said, no, it's not. It's an individual right, just like your right to free speech, your right to religion, your right to not incriminate yourself. Same individual right as all of those. But to this day, those people will still scream and say it's some crazy conservative judge did this and yada yada. So my point is when you're on the losing side in a court battle, whether you're President Trump or Biden or Roosevelt back in the day, like they always say, oh, it's because of politics. Rarely, if you look at the reasoning, the judicial reasoning behind it, rarely is it a politically motivated thing. Very, very, very rarely.
Yeah, Daniel could be a lawyer. I
It has a GD, yes, and
he
a Master of Laws, and I'm an overeducated fucking lunatic apparently, but
well, you remind me of processes of law, and like I mean, when things popped up about um, with the mining stuff about Swan, and it's either you see one headline and the other, and you're like, oh my god, it's this, oh my gosh, it's that, and then the wheel of justice grinds and grinds, and it's like we don't know what's going on exactly.
yeah,
Um, but at least we have it. We have those processes, and hopefully it does grind finally.
yeah.
Versus what you see like in the UK where it's like we're gonna ban ninja swords. It's like okay,
Fucking
can't
idiot.
have a long sword anymore. um,
Those guys are
you
such
you
retards.
can say stuff, but it just can't be inflammatory or offensive or hate.
Right.
Okay, with no Second Amendment, it's like you're at the blessings of who. Just hope they don't come knocking on your door when you express yourself, or
Yeah. Oh, they
like,
will. They do. Yeah.
oh my god. So it's crazy times. I wonder. Um, I mean, yeah, free speech involves poor speech, bad
Yeah.
speech, and this the solution to all of speech you like or don't like is simply an open forum for more speech,
Yeah.
and if you're not hurting anybody. So anyway,
That's funny,
and
John.
that's like literal
Being
versus
undereducated. Sorry. I just thought that was funny. Yeah.
yeah, I am as well, Johnny. Um, or like a jack of all kinds of trades where I'm just not a master of anything. Um, but more
Well,
and more so in Bitcoin.
if I may, like there's a when I saw that ninja sword thing, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like here's how ridiculous it is in the United Kingdom. I rode with the London Metropolitan Police because I was studying at the LSE. I was getting my degree in criminology over there.
You lived in London, right?
I lived in London, yeah, and I had a couple of opportunities to go out with the London Metropolitan Police Service and go out on patrol with them and see how they work. And I asked them about their knife laws, right? Because they have taken our like gun crime, which is not a real category of thing. Like even I hate when I see like pro gun people say gun crime. I go, there is no such thing as a gun crime. Either it's an assault or it's not. Either it's a robbery or it's not. There's no like gun robbery and then non gun robbery, right? There's no gun assault and then non gun assault. It's just an assault. And if it's an assault with a deadly weapon, it doesn't matter if it's a bat, a sword, or a gun. It's a deadly weapon, and you could die from its application to you in a negative fashion. So, nevertheless, with the London Metropolitan Police, they go, yeah, now with our knife laws, and these are the cops talking, they go, this is what happens. Someone will call the 999 or whatever their number is for emergency services and go, hey, my roommate is trying to beat me up. And the first question the operator asks is, are there any knives in the house? Well, Fucking duh. Yeah, of course there's a knife. I don't cut my meat with a spoon. Like, yeah, there's, oh, well, if there's knives in the house, we need to do XYZ. So they have to take all these extra measures of security and safety and all this because there's a knife present in the house. And I'm like, you fucking idiots. I mean, it's like, and the equivalent here is like 911. They go, are there any guns in the house, right? And now the thing is, I think that's a valid question. If you're going to go respond to a domestic violence thing, cops get shot all the time showing up and go, okay, Sam and Sue are arguing again and they're both drunk. And then next thing you know, Sam goes, I'm not going to fucking jail. Fuck you, pigs. And then starts shooting at them. So that's a pretty, but the thing is you don't use a gun to eat your soup. You don't use your gun to cut your steak or to chop vegetables or anything like that. It's not necessarily a common implement, right? But it would be kind of like if you called the cops and said, "Hey, I need someone to come out right now. I need some. Are there any toilets in the house?" Well, of course there's a fucking toilet in the house. That's just they're
It's an assault toilet.
that's part of the house,
Yeah.
just like knives. So when they come
When
on,
I
how are you going to define a ninja sword? You fucking peanut, like
An assault sword.
an assault
Yeah.
sword. Yeah, seriously,
Is
we've
the
got
handle
assault
black,
swords
sir?
now.
Is it black wrapped leather handle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah. That makes
Does
it
it have
more
a
deadly.
foregrip on the
Yeah.
sword?
Yeah.
Um, you go down a rabbit trail of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
When my kids were my first kids when they were much younger, and I was going through things for the first time as a newer parent, and we'd go to like the 3-year-old wellness check or the 5-year-old, 7-year-old wellness checks. This is with a nurse at the hospital, and it's like all the normal stuff. Oh, bump your knee and your leg kicks and all that stuff. How's your heart? And then going down a gamut of questions, like, some of them are kind of like, okay, sure. I mean, I guess they're statistically correlated to human health. And one of them was, are there any guns in the household? And it's like, nope, no guns. Okay, access to guns. Like, so the public health concerns of things that statistically they look at and make threads connections to, but it's like, okay, we're here for a health and wellness check for my kid, and you're asking me if I have guns in the house.
Right.
Like, um, kind of like parent education. Like, if I were to say yes, are they locked up? Are they accessible? I mean, common sense stuff. I get it, but why are we here again?
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, but
What does that have to do with the physical health of my child other than a risk of injury? Because you didn't ask
sure.
me if I have any chainsaws in the house. You didn't ask me if I have any explosives in the house. You didn't ask me if I have any dangerous chemicals in the house. You didn't ask me any number of other things that are far more dangerous. How many buckets do you have in the house? Because a lot more kids die drowning in buckets than they do getting shot by their parents.
I've
So,
got Drano under the sink. Okay,
yeah,
is the cabinet locked? Is the cap on tight?
yeah,
How many bottles of Drano do you have?
right.
A dozen of them.
That's a
Ooh, a
perfect example
dozen.
of of politically motivated research that can get slipped into the general conversation because the CDC did a study that said, hey, a person with a gun in a house is like X number of times more likely to die by that gun. And they conveniently included suicide in that mix. And it's like, well, what is the rate of suicides in the United States versus other countries where you can't own a gun? Oh, it's the same. So, but then they've now applied that. So when you come in, bring your kid in for a child wellness check, they go, oh, do you have any guns? Yeah, because statistically, this child is 10 times more likely to die in the house because this child is a member of the household and there's a gun present. And your kid at 3 years old might decide, job sucks, tired of the wife and kids, I'm done with this, I'm just going to go eat a shotgun at 3. No, that's not what happens here. The risk of accidental death to a child from a firearm is so trivial, it's minuscule, it's tragic when it happens, obviously. It doesn't make it okay that it does happen. And it's far less likely than a kid's going to die from a bucket or a plastic bag or any number of other common household implements because kids are dumb as shit and they do dumb things and sometimes they get hurt doing it. So yeah, but that's that political corruption, because the Congress actually banned the CDC from doing any sort of gun related studies for like 20 or 30 years because of that one particular item, So,
Yeah, I heard the CDC recently. Maybe it was yesterday. I saw that they're opening a group or a work group committee on man. This will get us banned. Vaccine injury.
oh,
Eh,
yeah, that's under
that's
Bob
different,
Kennedy. I don't know how that could possibly get us banned. There's a guy in in charge of that whole works that is now publicly saying this kind of stuff. So if
right?
YouTube was still banning for shit like that, then I go, hey man, you better update your sources. But I don't know. Facebook guy just admitted the other day, according to some headline that's probably fake as shit on Twitter, that yeah, fact checking is just an opinion of the fact checker.
Yeah, with my ivermectin cup here.
Delicious ivermectin.
Yeah. Now, I'm wondering. Marty Bent had one of his more recent write-ups um, touching upon the idea of like, and he's written these before, but Doge is doing all this great work. Say, cutting. We're finding trillions, fraud, waste, and abuse, trillions of dollars. Let's say, is it going to cure the say 10 trillion we have to roll over in debt? Have we crossed an event horizon with the dollar? Can we undig ourselves? So the Doge team was on what, Fox News, and they had an interesting interview, question and answer, a whole bunch of stuff, like just grinding away on work and like aiming for finding about $4 billion a day
Yeah.
in waste or
Which
more.
is astonishing by itself, by the way.
By itself, it's just like OMF and G.
Yeah.
And also, as astounding to think that that may not even put a dent in it.
Yeah.
Can we gouge away at the mess and pull out of the event horizon crossing of like a black hole of failed money? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Maybe.
I mean, I certainly say you can usually dig yourself almost out of almost any hole. Like Japan might prove an outlier there. Like I don't think they're getting out of that mess that they created back in the 80s. Like I think it was Isabella, the BTC influencer chick, the Bitcoin influencer chick. She just did a video about Japan. Like apparently she's visiting Japan. This is a
I
pretty
saw.
brilliant like job strategy, by the way. Be a good-looking chick, travel the world, and then meet up with some Bitcoiner there and do an interview about whatever's going on in your vacation
If
destination.
if we were two hot chicks, we would have different numbers, I think.
Holy cow! Could you imagine? Maybe we should get a little AI thing going and just like get some,
Yeah.
assets going. See if our numbers improve. Uh, yeah, but she did a really good little video. I mean, I'm kind of making fun of her a little bit, but she did a great video on the Bank of Japan and what happened. And I didn't realize this had occurred, but if you go look at a chart for the Nikkei stock index, it peaked in like 1989 at some ridiculous high valuation for the time, and that was right at peak like 80s movie like Japan is taking over the world kind of shit. Very few people at the time understood that all they were doing was just printing money out of thin air, and like while the United States was collecting like 18% interest at the time, like interest rates in the United States I think peaked at 18% or something like that. For those who are unaware of what that means, that's like charging a house on your credit card. I mean, it's an insane interest rate. So while they were doing this, the Bank of Japan flipped around and went, "Hey, why don't we just cut our rates to like 2% or 0% or whatever?" And so they obviously just had a flood of speculation and nonsense, just like we did, since 2008, or really since 2000, or actually I should say since Reagan came in office, but that's a different story. But now the Nikkei has finally recovered. So almost 30 years later, if you bought the Nikkei at the peak in 1989, you just now broke even. Except the
In fiat. Yeah.
yeah, in yen fiat terms, right?
Yeah.
So but the same people that like invest in that market would look at Bitcoin and go, "Oh, it's a scam." It's like, do you not see you guys have just been absolutely wrecked. You've wrecked generations of Japanese. You've absolutely utterly destroyed things with your little fiat games, and you have the audacity to look at something like Bitcoin and call it scammy or worthless or whatever. Go anything that someone can create at on a whim is by definition worthless, right? So how those people still have any credibility in terms of saying any judging the quality of any other asset is beyond me.
Yeah, well, and the steady slide generally in what's happening. I saw a random stat now again, unverified, just kind of fits with my view on things, but that when the boomers turned 30,
Oh,
average boomer, when they turned 30, they owned about 20% of, um,
GDP.
of assets,
Yeah,
GDP assets or something. Generation X, when Generation Xers turned 30, they owned
like 6%.
about, I think it might have been 8%, but yeah, single digits.
Yeah,
Um, Millennials, as they turn 30 now,
like
they
one.
own about 2-3%.
Yeah.
So, like with every generation, there's less ownership and personal agency and investment in anything. So, there's that slide. As we just kind of get used to new normals on how fiat works. But uh, meanwhile, I think Trump and Besant, I mean, they want cheap money. I don't know how they don't print at some point here. I think there's some wrangling going on between the Trump administration and the Federal Reserve, but uh, whatever's coming to a head or not, I don't know how they don't uh, adjust interest rates and or print money. They want to dilute the debt. They have to if they're going to pull out of it. I don't know how they don't.
Well, that was sort of the thing you brought up earlier. Is like, is there a way to fix this? And I go, well, if you cut the amount of overage, right? Like they have to finance a gap between revenues and expenses, right? And if you can make that at least neutral, so you're not going into more debt every year, it's like cutting back on your expenses. If you're living off your credit cards and you got, it's costing you more than you make to service the credit card payments, then that's no bueno. Obviously, that has a short runway. So, for every bankrupt person on planet Earth, the way they have to first fix that is they have to at least make sure that what is coming in matches what's going out, right? Like you can't have more going out than coming in. That runway is short, and that's where the United States is currently, right? So, but the more they borrow at higher rates, et cetera, that just exacerbates the problem. It's the same thing as if you were living your life off credit cards and a job, and trying to finance your lifestyle on the credit cards. So, if Doge can actually go in and cut to a point where the budget is balanced, which we haven't had since Clinton, then yeah, it's possible you could start chipping away at that, and at least you're not sinking further, right? And then if you toss a little like money printing on top of that, then all of a sudden that debt starts becoming a lot more serviceable, a lot easier to get out of the hole. But you would have to then make all these cuts and these efficiencies permanent and things like that. So that is a whole other ball of kittens that you got to wrangle somehow. But the point is, yes, I think you can absolutely come back from whatever abyss we're standing on, especially if the stuff you're cutting is just pure fraud and waste, right? Like if you're cutting essential services to try and do that, that gets tough. Like politically speaking, that gets tricky because people start getting pissed when you go, "Hey, what do you mean I can't have my social security check anymore?" Or what do you mean I'm taking a 20% haircut on my pension fund or whatever? People get mad, right? And they'll come out, the pitchforks and torches will come out pretty fast. But if you can legitimately cut enough waste that you can balance the budget just by not wasting, like, like to go back to the credit card analogy, if you just had like a bunch of fake charges that were showing up on your credit card every month and you were just paying for them anyway and weren't paying attention, and then all of a sudden you got rid of those, and then your budget your budget was balanced at that point, you wouldn't notice. You would still be able to fund your exorbitant lifestyle on credit cards as long as your revenue and expenses were matched, right? But if you could just get rid of all the fraudulent charges on top of it, it's actually not that hard. So I don't know.
Well, maybe when the fraud, waste, and abuse is cut and cut and cut and cut, and they get down to, you know, what did Musk say, like in 130 days or something, they're hoping to be mostly done. And I think it's just it would be an endless process to keep the system clean and unfettered from all
Fraud,
this
waste, and abuse. Yeah.
fraud. But say we get there and it's like, well, that was all very great and good, and we're realigned, and we still got a problem. Um, Ultimately, if and when they print money, can't Cantillon effect and all that. I see that when they do that, that money is going to go to whatever is the safest or hardest assets, and I don't know how that's not good for a lot of things, but it could be gold, could be Bitcoin,
Yeah.
probably all of it, maybe real estate.
Well, that's if you would have asked me during the Biden administration if I thought they were going to crank up the money printers in the very near future, I would say, oh yeah, 100%. They don't have a choice, right? Like that's the only way the game keeps going. Now that we have this new administration where they're actually legitimate, potentially, because a lot of it, I mean, if you go look at the liberal side of things and you go, when they check the receipts, they go, they haven't found billions, they've saved like $100 million or something like that, right? And I'm sure they're exaggerating down as much as the Doge people are exaggerating up. Somewhere in between is the actual figure of what they're actually finding, what they're actually preventing, what they're actually stopping, et cetera, et cetera. But if it turns out, if we just take as true what they're presenting as this is what we're finding and this is what we're going to cut, there is a very distinct possibility. If you took that as all true, you could say, okay, if they balance the budget or even made a budget positive, there's more money coming in than going out. Then all of this stuff ends up being net negative for Bitcoin holders, right? Because that means the money printer is not going to be coming on. That means they're not going to be expanding money supply at these ridiculous rates, so they can keep funding operations and pay down debt and all that kind of stuff, and dilute debt and whatever. Um, I don't think that's going to happen. Like I think there's probably there is a non-zero chance that they could go that way, but it's a trivial chance. I think ultimately they're going to print. They always do. They can't help themselves. They just no matter what they come up with, what savings scheme they come up with, there's it's usually the printer. But in
Yeah,
that weird alternate universe where Doge goes and cleans up government, makes it as efficient as a star. What is it? What the SpaceX operation? And it's just lean, mean, and just gets it done as efficiently as possible. I think that's probably not going to be so great for Bitcoin in the short term.
right. Long term, it's all fine and good,
Yeah,
but yeah, they're Jerome Powell, I don't think wants to print. I think Trump does. I think maybe they're just holding off to find out more precisely later. But yeah, I don't know how they don't print. Still, I think they'll have to.
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's really hard to say at some point on some
So
level.
it's easy to compare current price movement to the 4 year cycle and where it is right now.
I
And
don't buy the 4 year cycle.
um,
Never
I
have.
think I think we may have just detached from any real 4 year cycle. Maybe if if mining rewards are just less and less, and it's really more other economic effects. It may not follow the same previously consistent 4 year cycle price movement type activities. It may have very well departed from that, or just what's coming is coming later, and that's all fine. But
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, ultimately, like fiat games are going to continue being fiat games until they're not fiat games anymore, right? Like it doesn't matter how efficient you get. It doesn't matter like any of that kind of stuff. Like I'm talking short term. If this administration can actually stay true to its word and not overprint and not fund the defense complex and not fund endless wars and not fund this and that and all the nonsense, then they might iron it out. But Bill Clinton did the same thing, and guess what happened right after Bill Clinton? They just ran the printer like it was going out of style. I mean, there was like 9/11 and then the wars that made, all the neocons rich and, like all that sort of fiat nonsense. And then 2008 that made a bunch of other, you know, the other rest of the 1% even more rich. And then COVID, which made the 1% even more rich. Like, those are pretty powerful incentives for people that already wield enormous amounts of power. So you kind of go, well, what's the likelihood they're going to give up all that power just to make America great again. Well, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're part of that 1%, um, like it's like the Prince of Riyadh. Like that guy just doesn't give a shit about what's happening to people like you and me. He goes, "Oh, your Bitcoin price went down. That's too bad because I wanted to sell a bunch of Bitcoin so I could go buy another palace in the Seychelles or something like that." It's like,
They'll buy some Bitcoin for gains. They might sell some Bitcoin for theoretical gains, or they don't care. But yeah,
it's funny if you look at their wallets; those guys are terrible fucking traders, dude. Like just because you've somehow stumbled into a lot of money doesn't make you necessarily any smarter, brighter, or better at anything than anybody else. And those guys, like, there's a lot of wallets. If you just go look at those big wallets, they go like, I bought high, sold low, bought high again, sold low again, bought high again. So you're just like, what are you doing, buddy? Like, come on, man. You think you have enough money to have proper tools at your disposal to not be absolute shit trading your stack, but there they are, just
yeah.
because they go by emotions and whatever, and except they get to have the illusion of like I'm wealthy and I'm smart because I have all this money. When, but they're like boomers. Like all rich people, like in the 1%, are very much like all boomers, where they over attribute their personal contribution to the world and underestimate just how fucking stupid they really are.
Right. Oh boy, couple of months away, Las Vegas. I
Oh yeah,
couldn't come soon enough. Um, the fiat world, the fiat job is killing me, and yeah, I've been rolling with escape for a while, and it's hitting me now. But man, getting to a conference and doing what we can do, I'm looking for freedom.
yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
A fiat
Well,
job just is
here I'm gonna share a
grind.
screen if that's okay. Where is it? Where is my? Do I have it? I don't have it up. How come that's not available to share? Oh, here, I'll just open one of these instead. Here, help Fritz. If you're watching right now, you really need to help Fritz. Go here right now, and you'll notice there's now a Bitcoin shop. If you pay with Bitcoins, you can save Satoshis on shipping. You get exclusive shipping discounts if you buy in Bitcoin. So right here, you can get a complete kit, $219, and you get free shipping in the United States. The more of these you buy, the quicker Fritz can get out of the fiat nonsense and join us here on the Bitcoin world. Go now, buy this. There's kits. You can get the Bring Your Own Hammer kit for $189. Awesome, best possible way to secure your seed phrase that has ever existed.
You can buy with Bitcoin now.
Yeah, or you can pay fiat.
Yeah,
Well, I'm easy. But yeah, and if you are coming to Las Vegas for Bitcoin 2025, you should stop by. We're going to have a booth there in the expo area. You can meet me and Fritz in person. We
yeah,
can talk about fiat things. We can tell you how we're going to solve all the problems in the world. And we'll hard hustle you a MicroSeed while we're there. We're going to hard shill you the second you show up. What's stopping you from protecting your seed phrase today?
exactly.
I was
Yeah,
shot the other day, Fritz.
it's going to be very interesting. Just help educating, showing off a tangible tool, and see who's interested in what. Uh, yeah, we've talked and talked before about the utility of this microseed. So
Yeah.
private keys, anything you want, securely, obscurely, tiny.
Yeah, passwords, safe combinations. Yeah, Swiss bank accounts, insurance information.
Your
So
wife's your wife's birthday, wedding anniversary. If you if you can't ever remember, you'll never forget.
you can just hang it on a
It's
little chain around your neck. You can look at it every day and go, "Oh fuck, it's coming up."
yeah, you will never. You'll. It could be on a little necklace right around you. You'll never lose it. You'll never forget. Whatever you want, stored tiny. So, looking forward to it.
21e15.com, MicroSeed. Go buy one.
Yeah,
Help Fritz escape the nightmare of
I will
working
do nothing but
criminal
sell.
justice. because I escaped the nightmare of criminal justice work. It's an absolute drain on the old psychology and the body. Just say no.
It is. I'm feeling it. Yep. I've put in my time.
Hell yeah, brother.
Oh boy.
Time to break
So
free. Get on the Bitcoin standard.
I'm going to escape to a Bitcoin standard and a Bitcoin job someday.
Soon. Someday soon.
Very soon. Very soon.
All right.
Well,
We good?
yep. Been an hour and 5 minutes.
Johnny, it's awesome to see you again, sir.
Thanks again, Johnny. It's been very good.
Thank
We
you
will
for
see
everybody.
everybody in Vegas.
Come to Bitcoin Vegas. Meet us in person. I'll sign a copy of my book for you.
We
That's
got
actually
booked.
one of the perks. If you buy the Bitcoin bundle, I'll send you an autographed copy of The Great Realignment, Power, Money, Greed, and Bitcoin.
Yep.
Free shipping.
Good book.
I'm terrible at selling shit. I hate it. Like I actually
Hey, we're
hate
getting better. We're new at this.
it.
We're gonna have. We'll have said it so many times. We'll have our
Yeah.
our headlines down pretty soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right.
Take it easy.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye.